Think your local lake is sketchy because of a few floating beer cans and a questionable smell? Try visiting a lake that can dissolve your shoes, gas you in your sleep, or give you more radiation than Chernobyl on a bad day. These are the Earth's real no-swim zones, nature's way of saying, touch me and you die. Number 6. Lake Karachay, Russia. In the southern Urals of Russia lies what might be the world's most toxic lake, Lake Karachay. But don't let its modest size fool you, it packs more lethal punch than many giants. Karachay, sometimes spelled Karachay or Karachaj, was a natural lake until it became part of a dark chapter in Soviet industrial history. Around 1951, the nearby Mayak nuclear complex began using it as a dumping ground for radioactive waste in a desperate and reckless bid to avoid dumping into rivers. Over the years, that waste built up, and the lake turned into a kind of open-air nuclear hazard. By 1990, standing by the shore for just 1 hour could expose you to a radiation dose so high it threatened acute radiation sickness. Reports cite around 600 Röntgen hour at certain discharge points, enough to kill. The place gained a reputation as the most polluted spot on Earth. Because of that, efforts were made to contain the threat. Between 1978 and 1986, nearly 10,000 hollow concrete blocks were dropped into the lake to stabilize sediments and reduce the risk of radioactive dust blowing off during droughts. As late as 2015, the lake was infilled further with rock and soil to seal it in. The goal? Keep the radioactivity locked in and stop it contaminating air, ground, or groundwater. But one mustn't get too complacent. Radionuclides like cesium-137 and strontium-90 linger for decades. Some estimates suggest Karachay still holds 120 million curies of radioactivity, distributed among water, sediments, and soils. Because of that, concerns remain about migration into groundwater or dust resuspension. If you ever visit, don't. The viewing distance should be measured in kilometers, not meters. The lake's name literally often translates to black water, a suitably dramatic moniker. Number 5. Lake Nyos, Cameroon. In the forests of northwest Cameroon, Lake Nyos was a peaceful crater lake until in 1986, it betrayed that calm with an invisible wrath. On the night of August 21st, 1986, Nyos released a massive burst of carbon dioxide in what scientists call a limnic eruption. That silent exhalation of gas crept into villages, hugging the ground because carbon dioxide is heavier than air, and suffocated 1,746 people and thousands of livestock. The victims, in many cases, showed no signs of struggle. They just collapsed and died. The gas cloud traveled as far as 25 kilometers from the lake. How did this happen? Nyos is fed by deep volcanic layers that continuously seep carbon dioxide. Because the lake is miromictic, its layers don't mix. Deep bottom water accumulated gas under pressure over time. Something triggered a release, possibly a minor earthquake, landslide, or sudden disturbance, and the gas burst upward, dragging bottom water with it and creating a devastating flow. To prevent another tragedy, scientists installed degassing tubes that continuously vent gas from the deeper water to reduce pressure buildup. Since then, there has been no repeat catastrophe at Nyos. Still, Nyos remains a haunting reminder that sometimes nature's deadliest outbursts are silent and invisible. Number 4. Lake Kivu, Rwanda/DRC. If Nyos was a tragic whisper, Lake Kivu is more like a giant lying in wait. Straddling the border between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Kivu is both beautiful and menacing. Under its serene surface lurk vast quantities of carbon dioxide and methane dissolved deep in the water, held in check by the pressure of overlying water layers. Because Kivu is strongly stratified and largely non-mixing, a property called miromictic, those gas-rich layers remain isolated. Some analyses have found gas pressures of 12 bar methane at 400 meters depth, alongside similar contributions from CO2. The total gas volumes are staggering. Some sources talk about hundreds of cubic kilometers of CO2 and dozens of cubic kilometers of methane. What makes Kivu especially terrifying is scale and population. Whereas Nyos impacted a few thousand people, millions live on Kivu's shores. If a trigger, earthquake, landslide, volcanic event were to destabilize the gas layers, the result could be catastrophic. Some scientists warn that Kivu contains 1,000 times more gas than Nyos did. Yet, there is a twist of hopeful ingenuity: methane extraction. The Kivu project taps into Kivu's methane for power generation, reducing gas pressure gradually and converting a hazard into electricity. The strategy is to carefully manage gas removal while pumping CO2 back to safe depths, all the while monitoring stability. Still, caution remains. Extracting gas too quickly or disturbing stratification could backfire, and in a region prone to seismic activity, Kivu is always under watch. Number 3. Kawah, Ijen, Indonesia. Sometimes danger doesn't come in invisible gas clouds, but in a lake so acid that it laughs at your swimsuit. Kawah Ijen, a volcanic crater lake in East Java, Indonesia, is an otherworldly spectacle and a chemical hazard. The lake is fed by volcanic gases, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, dissolving into water to form powerful acids like sulfuric and hydrochloric acids. The result? pH values as low as 0.13 to 0.5 in some measurements, equivalent to battery acid or stronger. The lake's visibility is surreal, often turquoise, surrounded by fumarolic vents, with steam rising and the smell of sulfur in the air. By night, Ijen has a bizarre show: electric blue flames. Sulfur gases escaping through cracks ignite, producing flickering blue fire that curls and dances along the crater's walls. It's dramatic, haunting, and dangerous. Gas respiration, acidic mist, and fog can injure the eyes and lungs of unprotected visitors. Even being near the rim without a mask is risky. If you dipped your hand, and I strongly advise against it, the acid would corrode your skin, dissolve metals, and burn. That's not metaphor, it's basic chemistry in action. Still, tourists trek to Ijen at dawn, hoping to see the sunrise over the crater and the glowing sulfur. It's a bucket list location for those with lungs built of iron. Number 2. Lake Natron, Tanzania. In northern Tanzania, near the Kenyan border, sits a shallow, alkaline lake that evokes both fascination and caution. Lake Natron is not radioactively deadly, but its chemistry is brutal in its own way. Natron is a soda, alkaline lake, with high concentrations of sodium carbonate, salt, and minerals. The pH can reach approximately 10.5, almost as caustic as ammonia. Temperatures in shallow zones can soar, and the brine is hot, salty, and unforgiving. To most life, Natron is inhospitable. Many birds, bats, or small animals that accidentally fall in perish, and their remains become calcified mummies, as though the lake fossilizes tragedy. Over time, their carcasses pick up mineral coatings and become stiff, preserved, almost sculptural. Yet Natron is not devoid of life. Lesser flamingos, Phoenicanias minor, thrive here. They tolerate high alkalinity and feed on cyanobacteria, algae, adapted to the harsh water. Natron is one of their main breeding grounds. Because predators avoid the corrosive environment, the flamingos get a kind of toxic sanctuary. The lake's geography, about 56 kilometer long and up to 22 kilometer wide, though shallow, less than 3 meters in many areas. Much of the water comes from springs, streams, and geothermal inflows passing through volcanic terrain, loading it with minerals. In dry seasons, evaporation concentrates minerals further, raising alkalinity and the lake sometimes turns red or orange from pigmented microorganisms. Despite its striking visuals, pinkish hues, stark shores, flamingos, it remains extremely dangerous to splash in. Skin and eyes would protest loudly. Number 1. Berkeley Pit, Montana, USA. Let's cross continents for a moment to the United States, to a lake that isn't natural, but no less deadly. Berkeley Pit in Butte, Montana, is a former copper mine turned toxic water body. Over the decades of mining, rock and ore were removed, leaving a huge pit over 1,780 feet, 543 meters deep. Around half that depth is filled with water, acidic, heavy with metals like copper, arsenic, zinc, cadmium, and more. The upper waters have rich colors, with rust and lime green hues depending on the metal concentrations. In 2016, several thousand snow geese landed there, mistakenly likely, and many died. The acidity, combined with heavy metal poisoning, was lethal. Today, the site has a viewing platform, complete with gift shop, yes, a toxic souvenir stand, to let tourists peer into the pit safely. The water is not as immediately corrosive as battery acid or the pH extremes of Ijen or Natron, but the combination of low pH plus metal toxicity is enough to devastate fauna and make human contact dangerous. Remediation is complicated. You can't just flush it out. Instead, authorities monitor water levels, prevent overflow, and discourage wildlife from landing on it. Imagine stepping in. You'd get not just acid burn, but a cocktail of dissolved heavy metals attacking your tissues. It's not instant death, but it's very, very unwise. And that's our tour through the most beautifully deadly lakes on Earth. Proof that nature doesn't need monsters when it already has chemistry, radiation, and a bad temper. If you enjoyed staring into the world's most dangerous waters from the safety of your screen, hit that like and don't forget to subscribe. Stay curious, stay safe, and whatever you do, don't go swimming.